morning, welcome to the channel. So today I was going to continue with episode 3 of our Living in Paradise series. In episode 2 we went over individualism, and I had that chat of the 6 cultural dimensions, showing the difference between the UK specifically and Thailand, and we also included the USA as well. And today I want to go back to that chat and talk about power distance. That was actually the first dimension on the chat yesterday. So I think I need to sort of, just go over that one in brief detail and just discuss what that's all about. So power distance is basically the willingness of the population to accept there's inequality in society. That basically means that there's a business owner or a politician, somebody quite high in social standing, and how other people in society look upon that person and whether they respect them or despise them. In Thailand, as we saw from the chart, I'll put the chart up again so as you can just have a quick look at the scores on the power distance, so I can tell you as well. So power distance for Thailand was 64, so that's pretty high. So they have quite a general acceptance of the fact that there are people that have more power than themselves in society, and they respect that and they live with that. They really don't have a problem with that at all. But when we look at the UK, then we can see that power distance is pretty low. It's only 35. And that would indicate that people in society don't really accept the power difference in society, and they kind of resent it actually. In America it's a little bit higher, so we can see the green column there, that represents the US, and they're up to 40. Now, from what I've noticed and read about American culture, they generally accept that politicians and business owners, they've earned their right to have that power. That's how Americans look on these people, and they're successful, so they kind of deserve that right and deserve to have that power over others. But I use the term over others. I'm not quite sure that that's true in America. I think people would resent being told what to do because they are extremely individualist. To the extreme, they are the most individualist country in the world, according to this Hofstede Cultural Dimensions chart and data from their website. So yeah, Gert Hofstede, he spent most of his life studying these cultural dimensions and putting countries into a profile on his chart, and that's some serious work he's done. And a lot of other people claim that it's not really ideal, and there's other factors that need to be considered. But the problem is, nobody else has got anything that even comes close to what Gert Hofstede came out with. It really is the best measuring system that there is as far as measuring countries' differences in culture. So I basically follow his research and what the conclusions he's come up with. So yeah, this power distance, in America it's actually better than the UK. But in the UK, if you go into a pub, now this is a typical scenario. You go into a pub and you tell people that you're a politician, they're probably not going to want to talk to you, because they kind of despise you, the fact that you have all this power and probably money as well, and they resent that. They don't particularly like that. But if you did the same in Thailand, you went into a karaoke bar, for example, and you told a stranger that you were a politician, they would probably get down on their knees and why you, show their utmost respect for you and buy you a drink and everything else. So yeah, it's a huge difference. A joke just sprang to mind then about second-hand car salesman, going into a pub and telling people you're a second-hand car salesman, and people, again, they'll resent you, despise you. because you rip people off. But in Thailand, they probably wouldn't. You know, this ripping people off thing is not such a big sin over here. You know, if you can make a bit more money than perhaps the car was worth, then good on you. You know, there's sort of buyer beware here, and that's fair enough. You know, you have to live by that. I mean, we should anyway. You know, when we in Western countries we have these protections for consumers. And yeah, that's good. It is obviously good, but if you take those away, people are basically not thinking as they should. You know, they should be thinking about, you know, what they're buying and how much they're paying for that thing. But in Western cultures, that worry has been taken away from them. Whereas in actual fact, I'm not really sure it should have been. You know, people should be aware of what they're paying and what they're buying and the quality of the product they're buying. And here everybody is, you know, and I look upon that as a very good thing in Thailand. That, you know, everybody lives by the motto "buyer beware," and yeah, that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, we're sort of digressing here from power distance. Yeah, so power distance shows the differences in cultures to how they accept the fact that there's inequality in society as far as power and wealth are concerned. And here in Thailand they got a high score, which means that they pretty well accept that, you know, and they're quite happy with that and they can live by that. But in Western cultures, as we saw, the US and the UK, I mean the UK is quite extreme, I would say. In their low score they got 35, so they're pretty resentful, I would say. And the US, they're a little bit more accepting of that. Not as much as Thailand, obviously, but you know, they sort of see that people with wealth and power, they kind of earned that because they obviously achieved a lot in life, so they don't resent that for those people to have and possess. Whereas in the UK, they kind of do. But I think if we look at Scandinavian countries, when I wanted to talk about Scandinavian countries, I'm talking about countries where the government is truly representative of the people. Now that also includes Holland. You know, the government is seen upon as a tool of the people, and the government really does answer to the people. Now in those countries, it would be interesting, actually, I've never looked, but to see how the power distance scale is represented in those countries. Yeah, that would be quite interesting. Yeah, we'll have to do that in another episode. But yeah, so power distance, that goes on to another dimension. I mean, this is not one of Hofstede's dimensions, but it is one of his dimensions. Let me just check on that. No, it's not. No, but it is tied to power distance. So hierarchy within society. So you know that you can basically see how that pans out from the power distance scale on Hofstede's scale. So yeah, in Thailand, there's a high reliance on hierarchy, and it's a big thing over here. Whereas in the UK, it isn't. You know, the boss. Everybody accepts the fact that the boss has power, but they have a big responsibility that comes with that power in Western countries. So, you know, they have to be good at what they do, at leading people and all of these skills that they need. They have to be very good at those things. If they're not, then there may well be an uprising against that person with the power. Whereas in a country like Thailand with a high power distance score, they just accept it on face value. You know, this person is the boss, and yet you have to listen to this person. But having said that, there are responsibilities that come with being a boss in a collectivist society as well. I mean, these two things are not tied together. So power distance and collectivism, they don't actually go hand in hand with each other. But we're talking specifically about Thailand here. So Thailand is a collectivist culture, and they have a very set in stone hierarchical system in society, and that can be people with high social standing. So for example, a judge, then they would have a very high place in society and everybody would respect them. And it also is the same in the workplace. So if people are working in a company and the boss walks by, then people would ride them. They would show their respect to the boss. And the same with school. Teachers, they have a high social standing in Thailand, which is actually a great thing, and it should be the same everywhere. But unfortunately, it isn't. Yeah, so students, they pay respects to the teachers when they walk past. And I mean, get this, kids usually have to take their shoes off when they're in the school buildings, and they have to carry their shoes. But to why a teacher with shoes in your hand would be disrespecting that teacher, it sort of basically has the opposite effect. Instead of paying respect to that teacher, you're actually looking down on that teacher by walking with shoes in your hand, because shoes are considered as very low things. So your feet are considered the lowest part of your body, so therefore your feet don't have any what am I saying here? I don't have any what? I got no idea where I was going with that. But yeah, so your head is the highest part of your body, so therefore deserves the greatest respect, and your feet are the lowest part of your body, so therefore don't deserve any respect. So yeah, I can go off on tangents galore here regarding this point, but yeah, I'll try to stick to the point that we're discussing at the moment. Yeah, so if the kids there wandering around the school with their shoes in their hands, and if a teacher walks past, they have to stop, put their shoes down, why the teacher, and then go bend down, pick up the shoes and carry on. I mean, that's serious commitment, isn't it, to paying respects? But yeah, I mean, that sort of ties in with the cultural values of Thailand, and it's such a nice thing to see, really. But it stinks of hierarchy. And coming from a Western background and Western culture, hierarchy, it's not one of my core values, but it is here. Now I have to learn to live with the fact that this is a thing in Thailand. And so far I have, but sometimes I do sort of resent people in power, people in power who I believe are not doing the right thing and not doing the job they should be. And I do actually resent that, and I find myself doing that. I resent those people with that power, which is purely born of my own background. People here, they just don't think like that. That person is in power, and that's the way it is. Regardless, whether they deserve the job or not, it doesn't make any difference at all. They have that position, so therefore you have to respect the person. There are very seldom occasions where somebody gets put in a position of power and there's a mutiny. That very rarely happens, but it does happen. There was a case here at a secondary school, and a new director came in, and she was there for about a year, and then she started making huge waves. The students, parents, teachers, absolutely nobody was happy with this person. So there was a rebellion. And in the end, rather than losing face and, losing face for the position that she held. So not just as a person, but also as a position. This wasn't acceptable according to Thai values. So in the end, she had to be suspended or transferred to an inactive post. That's a thing in Thailand where, they won't sack you, but they'll transfer you to an inactive post. So that basically means you'll go to an office somewhere, probably in a government office building somewhere, and be given a desk, and you just have to sit there and twiddle your thumbs. So this is what happened to this lady, and under the pretense that she was being investigated, because there were some concerns about indiscrepancies in the accounts of the school, and it was a government school. So yeah, this is how they alleviated this situation, or they solved the problem in this situation, because there was basically a rebellion. It's short of protests, it was very close to that. So in the end, the authorities had to step in and say, okay, we need to suspend this person, and the assistant director took over, and took over the job of the director, and everything turned back to normal again. And people here, I've always said that they have very short memories when things like that happen. But I really don't think I've hit the nail on the head there with that statement. People here, they value happiness. So when things get nasty, I use the word nasty again. I mean, that's not probably an apt word to use in this situation. Things got a little bit out of hand in that situation, in that school. So the parents, the students, and the teachers, they were all upset and didn't really want this person, this new director, around anymore. And so the authorities stepped in, removed this person under false pretenses? No, I mean there were discrepancies in the accounts, and they said they needed to investigate that, so they put this person on, not suspension, but they didn't fire her either. They transferred her to an inactive post while they were investigating, which completely solved the problem. And so everybody went back to being happy again. And that's the way it is here. So when I say they have a short memory, that's just not the case at all. They would rather brush these things under the carpet once they're over and done with, which is really good. I mean, everybody stays happy like that, which is great. So earlier I was talking about having responsibilities with positions of power in Thailand. Those responsibilities, the person has to be qualified to do the job they do. Now, when I talk about qualified, that does mean mainly paper qualifications, and in some ways also skills are considered as well, but generally it's paper qualifications. And those responsibilities those people with power have, they're paternal and maternal qualities that they have to possess as well, or the responsibilities they have to possess. And they're basically like your mum or dad if you're an employee. If you have any problems, no matter where, whether it's at home or in life or in work, you go to that person and you seek their advice, and they have to basically be a mother or a father and give you sort of motherly advice or fatherly advice on these problems you're having. And that's considered to be something essential for somebody with a position of power in this country. I mean, within reason, if you were talking about a prime minister, well, nobody's going to go to the prime minister and say, I've been having this problem at home. I mean, that's just completely inappropriate. But we're talking about people in positions of power. So, for example, like an assistant director, or possibly even a director, depending on the hierarchical system. Because you generally, if you're just a regular teacher, you don't go straight up to the director with problems. You'll go to your supervisor first, or you could bypass the supervisor and go up to the assistant director. Somebody that you know quite well. But if you don't really have a good relationship with the director, then you're probably not just going to go knocking on the door and asking for their advice. So I keep waffling on here. I better stick to the brief, So we're talking about power distance. If the country scores high on the power distance scale, then they're willing to accept this inequality. But if the country scores low on this scale, they're not so willing to accept this this inequality in society. Well, we did beat the rain here, so very lucky. And now the sun's coming out, but it's still raining. So I should be making my move. I should be making my move soon. So, just having a think about this friend that just arrived, or I said acquaintance just now, and that's probably more akin to what the relationship actually is. He's actually my good friend's brother-in-law. So it's the brother of my friend's wife. And this is the relationship. And also the friendship was born because of that, because this is an example of in-group and out-group we were talking about before. This is all related to the collectivist culture. So collectivist is you're either in-group or you're out-group, one of the two. If you're in-group, then yeah, you're in the group of friends, I guess is the best way I can describe that. And that basically means that, you know, the opinion of the group is important, not the individual. Now, being a Westerner, that's a bit of a struggle for me, but I try to live by that. But, I mean, sometimes I sort of, you know, say things completely out of order in this social status thing, you know, where I can, you know, somebody's talking on about, I mean, it happened a while ago, my brother-in-law's group, and I was sitting in the group, because I'm kind of a member of that group as well, because he's my brother-in-law, so his group of friends, they basically have to put up with me as well. I was sitting in the group, and one of his friends was going on about, he's a bit of a motorcycle fanatic, and he had a Hayabusa. It was actually an old one. And he was saying, yeah, it's the fastest bike on the roads, and most powerful bike and all this. And actually at the time it wasn't. It was beaten by that BMW that came out, and that was the S1000RR. Pretty sure that was the model. You know, I sat there trying to just bite my tongue and not say anything, but in the end I just couldn't, you know, so I had to sort of blurt this out that wasn't actually the case anymore, that Hayabusa, Suzuki Hayabusa was beaten now by this new BMW that came out. And you should have seen this guy's face drop. You know, I mean, I did a complete taboo thing right there. I made the guy lose face in front of a group, of his group, and that was, yeah, completely taboo. You know, it took quite a long time to repair the damage I did there. So yeah, these things do happen. I just have to remember next time, bite your tongue, don't say anything. It's the group that matters, not the individual. Well, the sun's come out, it's stopped raining, and I've finished my coffee, so it's time to get going. So I'll be coming back to you again from the jungle. So much for not getting wet. It came down seriously heavily just now. That's probably it for my episode 3 of Living in Paradise. It's not quite paradise right now. See ya.